Good evening. We are coming to the end of this week, and we are coming to chapters 10, 11, and 12. Like I said yesterday, we saw the conversion of Saul, and that's going to be a huge factor in reaching out to the Gentiles. But before Saul becomes the apostle to the Gentiles, Peter is the first apostle to the Gentiles, and we see that in the story of Cornelius in chapter 10. Cornelius has two parts to it. Chapter 10 has two parts to it. Cornelius receives a visitor by an angel who tells him to go call on Peter. Peter receives a vision that shows him that he shouldn't be thinking that Gentiles and Jews are all that different. And notice that he has to see that three times. We see that metaphor of three come back and forth, and see how Peter views that and what it does to him. And so then Cornelius sends for Peter. Peter, because he's seen the vision, is willing to go. He tells Cornelius, normally I wouldn't have anything to do with you, so why am I here? What do you want? And he says, I've been told to ask for you. And Cornelius doesn't know why. So Peter then goes through a description starting in verse 30 about witnesses, who they are witnesses of. He tells them about Jesus. And then in verse 44, it says, while Peter was still speaking, the Holy Spirit falls on Cornelius and his family, and they begin speaking in tongues, same way the apostles did. And then they were baptized. Chapter 11, as always, somebody doesn't like something new. The Jews don't particularly care for the fact that we're now broaching Gentiles, bringing Gentiles into this group, and so Peter has to defend himself. He goes through the same explanation, and then we get the middle of the chapter. We get to the church in Antioch. Now, because we're expanding out into the Gentile area, Antioch, although it has a large Jewish presence, also is going to have both Jewish and Gentile Christians in it. I like the fact when you get down to I've lost control of it, verse 26, it says the disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. Now, Christian's just a word to us. We all know that. But you've got to understand that we think of the name Jesus Christ as just a name. But Jesus Christ is not a first name and a last name or a given name and a surname. His name is Jesus. Christ is a title. And the Christ name is Messiah. So when it says they were called Christians first, it means they were Messiah people. Do you think of yourself as a Messiah person? Because that's what you are. You're a Messiah person. And as we read through the Gospels, we see so how important that is. Then we get into chapter 12, and you see that Herod actually martyrs James. It's interesting that Peter, James, and John were the kind of the big three, and now James is the first one of the three to actually be martyred. Early on in the growth of the church, sometimes your life, although short, can be an example to others because it was short. It's not always what you say or do as much as it is how you live your life, and sometimes even how you die. One thing I want to point out here, very simple thing, that they then decide this is popular. People like the fact that he's killed one of these apostles. So he takes Peter, and he's planning on killing Peter right after Passover is over. And he puts him in jail, and he puts 4 sets of 4 guards, 16 people around him. Then you go through the miraculous escape. There's a little sentence right there at the end of verse 19 that when Peter has made his miraculous escape, that Herod interviewed or cross-examined the guards and ordered that they be executed. And then we find out that Herod himself dies. I like to think that maybe part of that death is because of that execution. We see the specific reason for his death around verse 22, where it says, the people said, this is not, Herod speaking, this is not the voice of man, it's the voice of a God. And Herod doesn't bother to correct them. And so God kills him. All right, that ends the chapter. Tomorrow we will pick up in chapter 13, and next week we will finish the book of Acts. I hope you enjoy the readings, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless you.